Today it's Thursday, it's SportsDaz. That means it's time for our weekly look at all matters football, whether it's in Ireland or Australia. This is SportsDaz Football. Coming up later on the show, Fermanagh All-Ireland winner ex-Carlton player Joanne Doonan will be with me as we look ahead to round 7 of the AFL Women's Series. Hard to believe we're halfway there already and teams now are battling for the playoff spots. So we'll be talking to Joanne later on to look ahead at all the weekend's games and tell you our players' moments and matches of last week. But before all that, let's look at the news affecting football this week, and we'll start with the big story. Micheál Naughton from Donegal is the new LGFA president, taking over from Marie Hickey, who served 2 3-year terms. Micheál will serve a 4-year term, and he's already set one of his ambitions to fill Croke Park for All-Ireland Finals Day. Something a few years ago you'd have kind of laughed off, but it's very, very realistic now once we can come out of the COVID times we're living in at the moment. We were hoping to talk to Micheál this week, but I can confirm that Micheál Naughton will be with us on SportsDaz Football next week, and that's an interview I cannot wait to get into. One of the topics that no doubt will be discussed is split seasons. The GAA have brought it in. So far, the Camogie and ladies football haven't. And even if you're listening to the third half this week, Jennifer Dunn, the Dublin footballer, would have mentioned it too. So it's becoming a big topical point, the split season. Jennifer Dunn and Galway Camogie Siobhan McGrath are on this week's special episode of the third half, which is now available on sportsdaz.ie. So check that out if you can. We mentioned last week about West Cork and the dilemma they're having in locally at the moment. They are the Cork senior football champions, but based on the official rule book, they mightn't be allowed to defend their title because a divisional team in senior can only pull from 3 junior teams or 1 intermediate and 1 junior. Cork have passed new rules saying that they can pull them from any teams, non-senior teams in their division, but they need the LGFA, who fined them last year, to approve that, and that won't be done until a special congress, which will be later in the year. And should that special congress take place before the Cork Championship begins, then West Cork will not be able to defend their Cork title. Now, we gave our opinion on it last week. We understood both sides. I certainly would hope that Congress would take place beforehand. At least, let Cork have their case. Cork have passed it. Let them have their case. And whatever decision is made is made. And that's really where we are on that at the moment. Let's move on. The hashtag Gaelic for Teens concludes this week after 6 weeks. Mullen and Sharon Courtney will be talking about accuracy. Check out the series. It's definitely very enlightening for young players as well. And that's the most important thing at the moment, is that we keep our young people involved as best we can. They might be able to interact with other people, but they can play football, they can pick up a ball and kick it around. And check that hashtag Gaelic for Teens. Congratulations, Limerick LGFA. You have a new website at www.limericklgfa.ie. Great to see more counties getting official websites up there at base to get all the information. We talked about Galway recently, and well done to everybody in Limerick. Today, Corsi's GAA are hosting a Today is the Day event talking about emotional health, and why we mentioned that, well, Cork Ciara O'Sullivan will be one of the speakers on it. Again, a lot of talk about mental emotional health at the moment, but it's very, very important. So check out that Corsi's GAA social media. Today is the Day. Ciara O'Sullivan, a special guest on that. Derry LGFA have announced new sponsor Go, and it's brilliant for Derry. Good work being done up there to keep the game progressing and try and improve matters on the field of play. And it's Go, new sponsors of Derry LGFA. Armagh are having a bit of fun this month with their hashtag March Madness. They're having a bake-off challenge. Anybody who's a fan of the Great British Bake Off will enjoy this. They're getting out of their younger members to do their challenges, and there's some great pictures up there from Kira Gray, who's only 13, Rebecca Grew, who's only 16, and more coming up as well. So look at those pictures, and it'll definitely inspire some people at home to have a go at themselves at trying to pull off something special. As again, a lot of people that watch the show, we watch it here at home, even though Darren Kelly can only cook about a few slices of toast if you put him to the challenge. But definitely well worth it. And if you fancy having a go for Armagh LGFA's hashtag March Madness, post up your pictures of what you're baking on social media and let Armagh know. Rachel Kearns from Mayo has joined Galway WFC for the Women's National League. She scored 2 goals against Athlone Town last weekend. Now, I don't know how this affects Rachel in regards to her involvement with Mayo this year, but she will be playing soccer for Galway WFC, so that'll be interesting to monitor. But the bigger news coming out of Mayo this week is that 4 members of Carnacon are in their panel, the provisional panel, for whenever they start collective training again. Fiona McHale, Sive Larkin, Amy Dowling and Saoirse Walsh. Great news for Michael Moyles, great news for Mayo football. Those were 4 players that left back with the Carnacon players, pulled out of the panel under Peter Lee a couple of years ago. So the first steps are being made to heal the rift, dare I say, and that can only be good for Mayo football, because we've seen how close they were without the Carnacon players. So, you know, if you want to win All Ireland, you need all your players together, and hopefully now they can gel together and heal any outstanding friction from the incident that happened a couple of years ago. Sligo LGFA are encouraging their members to check out Sligo IT, who are now taking applications for their sports scholarship in 2021 and 2022. So if you live around the Sligo area, you have interest in going to Sligo IT, you know, and you can play a bit of football, that's where you need to go. And finally, Sporting Pride are holding their next episode of their LGBTQ plus and women hashtag Women in Sports series, hosted by Anna Nolan. Great awareness being brought there, like we've talked about in Australia too. So that's on next Monday, the 15th of March. Anna Nolan presents it, LGBTQ plus and hashtag Women in Sport Sporting Pride series. So make sure you check that out. So that's all our news in football for this week. Coming up after the break, we are going talking about All Matters Australia. It's round 7 of the AFL Women's Series, and we'll be joined by Joanne Doonan in just a couple of moments.
I like listening to SportsDaz because he has famous celebrities and I get to listen to him. Darren Kelly.
Now I'm delighted to be joined by Fermanagh and ex-Carlton player Joanne Doonan as we look ahead to round 7 already, Joanne, of the AFL Women's Series. It's starting to take shape, even if I suppose we didn't get the tight, close battle in any of the games this week we were hoping for.
Yeah, 100%. I think, I suppose, maybe predictable wins, but maybe not as, I suppose, a lot of hammerings, as I kind of briefly said. But yeah, like you said, the ladder's kind of taking shape and you can kind of start to see the teams that are trying to pull away at the top. And I suppose, again, another battle this week kind of for them, kind of final way spots in the final. So it's definitely going to get interesting over the next few weeks.
It's great now that we have the fixtures for the last 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. People know their run-ins. We won't go through them all in this episode. We might talk about the Demons later on. But going back to last week too, I suppose there was a lot of games there we expected to be closer. But Collingwood and the Bulldogs, like, we built that up massive last week.
Yeah, 100%. I suppose the way you've seen kind of Bulldogs playing and maybe games, I had kind of myself even wrote them off before they kind of had even started, and they completely stood their ground and, you know, even came out on top on some of them. So I definitely thought they were going to put up, I suppose, more of a fight. But like I said, the first quarter, even into the second quarter, you were kind of thinking, geez, you know, actually this could be a battle here. And then I think Collingwood just hit that switch and they were just on fire for the last few quarters and just kind of seemed to, I suppose, show their class and show how good of a team they are. Like, and, you know, I suppose even you see it in Gaelic football, people say about playing teams that are, I suppose, that wee bit level below you, that you kind of feel that you kind of drop to their standard. But I kind of think Collingwood definitely kind of showed their rank and showed, like, look, we're a team to be, or not to be messed with, I suppose. So, yeah, it was definitely not as close a game as I thought.
Collingwood have been the story of the year. Like, we had them as contenders for top 6. I don't think either of us had put the firm 50 down and said they were definitely in. But what's impressed me about them is they've changed every game. Like, I don't want to be hyping them up too much now. We're only halfway through the season, but they're showing signs of a team that expects now rather than hopes to be in the grand final in 6 weeks' time.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely think that I'd say within the camp they're looking, it's not just these few games. They probably want to keep that winning streak up. And yes, maybe if they lose a game, I don't think they're going to drop their heads too easy. But, when you watch them, their ability to kind of slow the game down to their pace and kind of control the tempo of the game, that, when you watch it, they just look like miles ahead in certain areas. They had so much time to make a decision on the ball. They were just confident. They were taking that, where most players would have kicked it. They were taking the player on. They were sidestepping. They weren't afraid to kind of, I suppose, they just seem to have that confidence, and they're kind of, I suppose, they're building on that each week and the belief each week. And they're definitely a team that, like I said, maybe I suppose we didn't see them maybe in the top two, but definitely now you'd be looking this year, they're going to be very hard to stop.
They have their 6 wins. We can, even though it's not mathematical, we can assume they're through to the playoffs anyway. The last one before we move on, St Kilda and the Giants, I'd say their race is run now.
Yeah, like that. I think St Kilda came out with a bang at the start of the year, and kind of people thought, Jesus, they've definitely improved a lot. And I suppose, I don't know, whatever where the games fell, that they just kind of had a few hard games and kind of couldn't pick themselves back up from it. And likewise with Giants, I think, started off kind of a wee bit ropey and then kind of came back into it, started to see them building that wee bit of confidence. But again, just whatever way it drew, they kind of came against some very tough teams and had some very tough games that kind of couldn't put it up against. And I'd say now they'll be kind of thinking it's going to be very hard to kind of crawl back, if even.
As you know, I love commenting on the Australian commentators. Now, don't get me wrong, I'd love to be down there commentating on this. Maybe, Joanne, some of you and me will get down and do that. But like, you just take Cora. Like 2 weeks ago, they were marvelling at her as a machine. Yeah. They called her Scora. And I was annoyed because I know I wouldn't get away with this if I was commentating on football at home, but they're talking about her aging legs and not able for the pace, and kind of going, for crying out loud, like, be consistent in your analysis at least.
Yeah, 100%. I think, I don't even know if it's very opinionated, but they just kind of go with the flow and kind of nearly forget about what they've kind of said previously. And I think, like you said, even when the first match is about Ashmack, they kind of singing her praises one week, and then kind of, I suppose, maybe if you're not consistent enough, to kind of put you down very easily the next week. And I don't know whether it's kind of them trying to get a wee bit of, I suppose, reaction from people, or maybe that they want to have people talk about the commentary. I don't know. But yeah, sometimes it's very questionable how they can go from one extreme to the other. Like you said, Cora played some phenomenal stuff, and they're kind of praised that, for her age, what she's been doing. And nobody would kind of question age in it at all until somebody mentions it. So it's kind of, I suppose, like you said, a bit unfair from them at times. Yeah.
It's definitely, the production is great, but they definitely do catch the eye with the way they come across. Let's go to our key moments of the week. First moment of round 6.
Yeah, like I said, I suppose it's kind of hard whenever there were a lot of, I suppose, hammering matches that, there wasn't anything mad outstanding. But I have to say, even talking to the girls, AILEEN Gilroy's behind that she got, she was nearly outside the 50. She threw a boot to it, and I honestly don't know how that girl could kick the ball so far, and just on the turnabout. It was unfortunate not to go in for a goal, but I thought it was just a fantastic play. But it, along with actually seeing, just when I was watching the Brisbane game as well, I think it's Hutter she is, but Courtney, she won a free, and then she played on, and she must have talked about 3 bounces of the ball, and her teammate kind of helped shepherd a person from tackling her, and she was unfortunate not to get her goal at the end of it as well. But Jesus, it was just class, seeing her just kind of escape, and the speed of her was just brilliant too. So there was some good moments in the week as well. So
there does be some great individual moments. And one thing I like about this, it's not just the Irish players, but we're getting to know some of these great athletes as well. And I look at some of the stats here in front of me, and and obviously the year we're having too, it's great to be able to enjoy this. Yeah. It's the fact we don't have it at home to enjoy.
100%. Yeah, I think it's just nice to even have, I suppose, sport to watch. And I suppose there is that kind of link because there is Irish girls, and maybe it's just because I was out there last year that I'm even more interested in it. But I think even a lot more girls that I know, or boys as well, have been watching it this year and just kind of keeping on top of it. I suppose it helps with the coverage with TG Carr, but yeah, anything at all this time of year, I think we're just glad to have a wee bit of normality and seeing people just going about their normal lives.
Glad you mentioned TG Carr as well. Excellent service, and they're showing 2 matches a week at the moment too, and it's well worth it. So if you're not like us getting up early in the morning or can't have access to the app, follow TG Carr. They do pick out the best games. Speaking of games, I know It's slim pickings, but what's your game of the week?
Mine was probably a bit of a toss-up. I actually thought the Collingwood Bulldogs game, up until I suppose Collingwood started to run away with it, was actually very good to watch. And even when Collingwood were going good, they were going very well, and it was very good to watch. I also put in the Carlton and the Geelong game. I thought Geelong actually scored a lot more than I anticipated, and I suppose it was good to just see kind of score on both sides of it. And again, there was kind of similar, very good kind of passes of play, and even I love, even from last year, Darcy Vescio. She's just such a smart player, and just kind of wee things she does, even if the ball's coming in for a goal, to kind of shepherd the person so they don't get a touch to it, so it counts as a goal. Wee things like that. Just love watching her do it. But I suppose, like I said, it's kind of slim pickings. But yeah, there's still some good passes to play in both of them games.
And even as you mentioned Carnacon as well, they're still hanging in there. We've been tipping them before, and I was reading one AFL piece during the week that are tipping them as well. We're really watching Carnacon here in particular. I've already admitted myself, and not because it's Joanne with me, that I actually picked them at the start of the campaign. I might be more hopeful and confident at the moment, but they're still there, Joanne.
Yeah, 100%. And like I said, I suppose not kind of going into too many fixtures, but they're up and coming fixtures. They'll be looking kind of fairly confident that they'll be getting a few more wins as well. So it's still all to play for, I suppose, for definitely them last few positions.
We've 9 Irish players in round 6. Who's your Irish player of the week?
Again, toss up, and I suppose my kind of one, because it was such a variance of games, I'll go with ORLA O'DWYER this week. I think, like you said, similar from last week, she's definitely deserving to get a nod onto this player of the week. And I suppose for the games that ended and how well Brisbane have been playing, and she's been such an influential part to that. So she's definitely one to be reckoned with. I've AILEEN Gilroy up there as well, like still freaking them tracking forwards, and just fantastic gameplay as well. But I think this week I give ORLA a nod.
And ORLA's player part 2. Brisbane's another team that have learned how to mix it up as well. We'll talk more about them because they're playing Collingwood in one of our featured matches in a moment. For me, again, AILEEN and ORLA, as we had them last week, were there as well. But I suppose if you take one, start of the week, you look at the score: West Coast 8, Fremantle 75. And arguably the 3 Irish players were just phenomenal in it. And I'm actually going to that match. Aisling got 22 disposals. Niamh got West Coast player of the game. But I'm actually going to go with Grace, because we've mentioned this before. Grace has been under the radar now. She got a goal, well read after Niamh's long ball, and she got it from another teammate. And then, they were just, they led, and the scoreline overall shouldn't take away from their performances too. So while there's 5 massive contenders there, and Aisling Sheridan probably in 6th of all them, I'm going to go with Grace. I think she deserves a nod, and she's going to be my pick of the week.
Very good, yeah, 100%. Like you said, it's fantastic to see, I suppose, the Irish representation in the West Coast. And I think, it's probably fair to say, and not just because we're Irish, if they did have a few more players, I suppose, like the Irish girls, they wouldn't be kind of too far behind. And you kind of just seen their kind of tenacity and kind of work rate. They kind of keep pushing on. And I suppose for just being a new team, and even for the girls being new to the sport, they're just fantastic leaders. And you can kind of see them trying to lead the game, I suppose, even with them maybe not knowing the whole rules and stuff like that. But like I said, well deserved. Them girls are putting it in every week. And like I said, I suppose just because the team didn't win doesn't mean that they shouldn't be recognised for their brilliant performances. So.
A quick question before we move on, because I've been thinking about this during the week. We talked about Collingwood already and the progress they've made in 2 years. Are West Coast Collingwood 2 years ago? Are they doing all the right things in building up the franchise that in a year or two, as you mentioned, they're a new enough club as well, in a year or two they could have a Series A in this competition? Yeah,
I definitely don't think any of them new teams, I suppose, like you said, maybe at a wee bit of a disadvantage, coming in, having that lack of experience, but they're definitely going to be teams to be reckoned with in the future. I think even chatting to Ash and the girls from West Coast, their coach seems to be very, very good, and, is very optimistic that, this isn't just a short-term fix, or, I suppose like the sport goes, managers change regularly enough, but I think they're definitely kind of just trying to, I suppose, replicate what they do practice in training, because just talking to them, it seems to be all the right things, but whenever they get onto the field, it's just not kind of replicated. So it would just be brilliant to kind of see just, I suppose, more I suppose results for the hard work that they are putting in behind the scenes. And I'd say you just add, like every year's different, you add a few more experienced players to that, and they'll definitely, I think, be a team to watch in the future, yeah.
We'll certainly be keeping an eye on them. Just a reminder again, last week's guest on the Fair Green was Aisling McCarthy, so you can check that out on SportsDaz if you want to read up on Aisling, doing great work down there in Australia at the moment, and 2 to 4 every weekend. ORLA O'DWYER and Grace Kelly are our players of the week, and you can see our latest scoreboard on sportsdaz.ie. Let's also, all the results from round 6 and the ladder are also up, plus highlights of all the round 6 games. We're going to move forward now as we look ahead to round 7. I suppose, Joanne, to quote Sir Alex Ferguson from Manchester United, it's getting squeaky bum time, because we know the 3 rounds, we know the runs in, and I'm going to focus on the Melbourne Demons in a moment. But the first game we're looking at is Melbourne against Adelaide, and this is a very, very important game, especially for Melbourne.
Yeah, I suppose Melbourne suffered a few losses that I suppose we probably would have tipped them to win. So they're kind of on the back foot a wee bit, that they kind of need these wins a wee bit more than Adelaide do. But likewise, I don't think Adelaide are going to lay over too easy. Like they're definitely coming into the swing of things. And I suppose even last week's great to see Constantine back in there as well, making an influence. But when you have the likes of even Anne Hatcher, Regan, Aaron Phillips linking up so well, just kind of they look like they're really getting back into it and kind of looking like them Premier winners of a few years ago. So I definitely think it'll be a very good game, but I do think Melbourne will have to come out kind of all guns blazing to try and get the win here.
We talked about bouncing back. Adelaide have bounced back from their setback, but Melbourne did this now. They did get the big win against St Kilda at the weekend too, and we know they were without Sinead Goldrick out injured too, and Lauren McGee was in there, and Eve McAvoy wasn't as well. But as you just said there, we were talking about them as title winners only a few weeks ago, and you really, there's real question marks now about whether they'll make the top 6 or not.
Yeah, I suppose that inconsistency kind of just plays on your mind to kind of be, what's going on behind the scenes, or how come they can't kind of, I suppose, maintain the wins when they do have it. But like you said, I suppose it's learning curves. You have a quick turnaround, as I say, every week. So you never know now. But I'd say they're looking at the future games, and, they're coming up against very hard teams. They've still Freo and Brisbane to play yet. So these are, must wins for them if they do want to feature in kind of that top 6.
Because they're on 4-2 at the moment, and you just said there, you have Adelaide, you have Freo, who've bounced back, as we just mentioned. You have Brisbane, who are looking very, very good as well. Like, every game for the Demons now, the next 3 rounds, is going to feel like a cup match, because, as we said, Collingwood 6 wins, they're effectively in. They're not in yet. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you might need, they did have to win 2 of them.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose you kind of look at the competition around that kind of 5th place. So you have the likes of Carlton and they're kind of coming in. I think it's Freo, maybe their only real competition, in the last few games. So they would be kind of starting to kind of panic a wee bit that, these are kind of must-win games if they want to feature. So, I suppose it's just that added pressure whenever you do lose a round, it can come back to bite you.
Adelaide have just been phenomenal as well. 1 loss, like Ebony Marinoff, like we know we started off talking about her negatively after what happened with Breach Stack, but he's been a leader for that team throughout the campaign as well. Great having Ailish Considine back as well, because they have had a couple of injury concerns as well. Have Adelaide. They're in a good place at the moment coming into this.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like you said, they're a team kind of full of experience, and I suppose a lot of them were on that Premier winning team, and that will kind of bring that belief back that, they still have what it takes, and it's just kind of by putting their marker down. And I think they've really been showing it the last few games. They had a loss, I think, at the very start, but they're definitely kind of don't look like they're going to be looking back from that kind of. So it'd be interesting to see now what they'll be trying to push on and kind of make the mark for finals. So
are they going to get their 6th win against the Demons, or can Melbourne roar back into this competition?
I'm really hoping, even the likes of goalie, if she's back this weekend as well, she's a very influential player, which doesn't help Melbourne. Oh God, it's hard to go, but I do feel that Adelaide won't let them kind of win so easy. So I'll tip Adelaide for this one, but I'm still hoping to see the Dublin girls do well.
Adelaide getting the nod there as well. It'll put the pressure on the Demons. That game is on Saturday at 8:10 in the morning. So it's a nice time if you want to catch it live on the AFLW app. I don't have the TG Car games with me at the moment. The other game we're looking at is on Sunday. We've spoken about them both already. Now, it's a bit early in the morning for us to watch it live. I'm sure this will probably be the TG Car game on Sunday. But Brisbane against Collingwood, we've marvel at Collingwood's great run at the moment. Brisbane have bounced back after their setback as well. This is going to be a tactical battle as well between two very smart teams.
Yeah, 100%. That's one of my first points I was going to say. Brisbane are usually very tactically and well, I suppose, do their homework on the other team and kind of have them well sussed out. But the likes of Chloe Malloy, is definitely someone they're going to have to stop, even on Ash Sheridan. And but I have to say Brisbane have a very good defence as well, so it definitely is going to be a team to be a game to be reckoned with, because it'll be two very good contenders. And I suppose maybe, like you said, there's nothing guaranteed still for Collingwood yet, but I suppose the pressure's not off. But it's that streak. They probably do want to keep history going, and they keep wanting pushing on to keep winning as many games in a row as possible. But again, you'd be looking kind of, I suppose, at the last few games, Brisbane still have North Melbourne to play, and Melbourne, I suppose, Demons. So it'll be very interesting now that there's still a tough few rounds ahead of them. Whereas Collingwood, they've still Adelaide maybe would kind of be another tough game, but they've only St Kilda then. So it'll be, I suppose, not as much pressure on Collingwood for the last few games, but hopefully this will probably be definitely a big decider, I would say.
We love our double acts in football, whether it's in Ireland or Australia. Like in Dublin, you could talk about Carla Rowe and Noelle Healy. You could talk about any two O'Sullivans in Cork, Louise Ward, Olivia Divley in Galway, Joanne Doonan, Emer Smith in Fermanagh, Chloe Malloy and Brianna Davey.
Yeah,
the work they put in, the impact they're having in this competition alone, I just enjoy watching them play every week.
Yeah, I think Chloe Malloy's up there with one of the top scorers of the whole competition. Likewise with Brianna Davey, I think disposes they're just they look unstoppable at the minute. And I think even when I referenced earlier about how they just look like there's so much time in the ball, I think Chloe Malloy is definitely one of them people that you nearly don't want to pounce too quick, because a wee sidestep and she could be round you and make you look like a fool. But she just has that kind of natural flair for it. And you can just see that no matter the angle, she seems to kind of be able to get it between the posts. So even her, it's I suppose that game head, that she just kind of understands the game a lot more, knows how to play it to her advantage. And I suppose, like you said, you've just kind of seen the links up between her and the other players. Just seem to be phenomenal. They just kind of bounce off each other, and especially Brianna Davey, because I suppose clearances into the forward line has been very good as well. So it's fantastic and great to see Ash Sheridan kind of coming into play with them as well. So they definitely have very good few players there. So
is there a fear, because we talked about the tactical nature, the two teams have to believe that there's a chance to meet again later in the season? I know there was a game that was meant to take place a few weeks ago, but is there a fear these two teams could cancel each other out? We saw Brisbane do it to Freo. We've seen Collingwood do it to the two Melbourne, shut them out as well. Is that fear there? Could this be, we touched, could this be more an intriguing battle than a free shooting blitz between two top teams?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Like I said, they're both tactically minded teams, but I suppose you kind of have to worry about your own game as well, not kind of get too bogged down and trying to stop the other team. You have to try and, I suppose, play to your strengths as well. So I definitely think it'll be, like I said, an intriguing game to watch. But no, again, it's going to be a very tough one to call. I honestly am really, really looking forward to seeing that game, especially when I wake up maybe.
and taking that point now, who is going to win this one? Do Collingwood feel they've done enough to qualify, or Brisbane going to have that bit of an extra edge to make sure they get their sixth win?
Look, again, I think Brisbane have kind of, I suppose, learned a lot from that setback that they have. So they might have that wee bit of experience, but I just kind of feel, looking at Collingwood at the minute anyway, they just kind of look like they're in that kind of unstoppable form, and it's going to take a mighty big game from Brisbane to stop them, I think. So I'm probably going to tip Collingwood in this one, but again, it's definitely, I don't mind either way if I'm wrong, but it'll definitely be a good game to watch, but I'll go with Collingwood.
We'll be watching it one way or the other. Joanne's pick is Collingwood, 4:10 in the morning, Sunday, Irish time. Let's quickly run through the other 5 games before we wrap up. I suppose we have the bottom 4 teams paired off against each other, starting with Friday night, Gold Coast against Richmond Tigers.
Yeah, I suppose, like you said, another good game, but Richmond have definitely improved over the last few games, so I'd definitely go with Richmond over this one.
And he did get 32 points against the Kangaroos last week. On to Saturday, 4:10 in the morning. We mentioned, well, definitely whoever loses is out, but whoever wins, there might be an outside chance for St Kilda and the Giants.
Yeah, definitely. I just kind of feel there's something about St Kilda, though. They still have that bit of tenacity in them as well, and it's I suppose sometimes hard to look past the Giants. It's again going to be a tough game, but I'll probably tip St Kilda in this one, to be honest.
Kilda get the nod there. The Kangaroos are back. We've seen that. The Bulldogs took a massive beating as well. They're still in the hunt. 6:10 in the morning Saturday. North Melbourne Kangaroos versus the Western Bulldogs.
Like I said, Bulldogs kind of might have got a kind of wake up call to be like, oh shit, we're not going too well at the minute. But again, if they bounce back well, I think they can definitely put a marker down. But I just think North Melbourne are going to, keep the winning streak going now, I would say. So I'll go with North.
North Melbourne get the nod there. On to Sunday, 2:10 in the morning. We've talked about Carlton already. This is a very important game for them up against the Fremantle Dockers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's, I suppose, must win for them if they can even want to feature in the last six. So it's going to be interesting, but it's always a massive battle. So probably one of the games that I would have liked to see playing last year that I suppose I didn't get to play. So, oh my God, it's going to be hard to go with, but
I can feel the heart and the head are torn here, Joanne.
I know. I do. I genuinely want to say Carlton, but I feel like Freo might top this. Yeah.
Freo just getting the nod there. And finally, West Coast Eagles against the Geelong Cats. That's the last game on Sunday.
Yeah, another winnable game for West Coast. I definitely feel like Geelong obviously haven't been on form at all. But I suppose I had a heavy blow last weekend against Freo, but I'm going to give the West Coast scares a nod. I think they definitely, if they kind of keep sticking together and kind of pushing on and keep getting influenced by the Irish, I suppose they might pull through. So I'm going with West Coast.
West Coast get the nod. Joanne, before I let you go, give a shout out first to North Melbourne's Caitlin Ashmore, the first player to be involved in 25 wins in the AFLW, a great ambassador for the game in general. Yeah,
100%. I seen that actually on Twitter during the week, and I actually met her through the girls last year, and she's a lovely girl, but she's a fantastic player. If anybody watched her at all, she's kind of near like a midfield, even though she'd be playing forward, because you see her, defending in the goal mouth of her own goal mouth, and then attacking and scoring goals up the other end. So she's just tenacity and experience definitely shows through that she's top class player, and definitely I suppose deserves recognition for all her kind of time committed to it. So yeah, brilliant.
I like listening to SportsDaz because I like to listen to ladies football and ladies camogie.
That was Fermanagh All-Ireland winner and ex-Carlton star Joanne Doonan previewing round 7 of the AFL Women's Series. And just to let you know, here on our SportsDaz social media pages on Saturday, we'll be following closely the games between the North Melbourne Kangaroos against the Western Bulldogs and Melbourne Demons versus Adelaide Crows. Let's look at the full fixtures before we wrap up. Starting tomorrow, Friday, 8:40, the Gold Coast Suns up against Richmond Tigers. These are all Irish times I'm giving you. On Saturday, 3 games, St Kilda versus Greater Western Sydney Giants at 4:10 in the morning. Then those 2 games I mentioned, North Melbourne Kangaroos versus the Western Bulldogs, that's at 6:10 a.m. and Melbourne Demons versus Adelaide Crows at 8:10 a.m. And on Sunday, another triple header, Carlton versus the Fremantle Dockers, 2:10 a.m. Sunday morning. Brisbane Lions versus Collingwood, that's at 4:10 a.m. and the week's action finishes with West Coast Eagles versus the Geelong Cats. That's on Sunday at 6:10 a.m. That's all our fixtures in AFL. We'd like to thank our guest again, Joanne Doonan, who joined us for that. We'll be back next week with more news on football. Don't forget to check out the third half that's out this week featuring Dublin's Jennifer Dunn. And with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the show. I'm Darren Kelly and this was SportsDaz Football.